Today, March 11th, 2026. In last 2 days, we were talking about the discourse on ant hill. And yesterday, we discussed about the 3 trainings, Sila, Samadhi, and Panya training, morality, concentration, and wisdom trainings. As Sila training, it consists of 3 facts, 3 dhammas, refraining from 3 kinds of 3 kinds of physical unwholesome dhammas, 4 kinds of verbal unwholesome dhammas, which has nothing to do with the living, and Sama Ajiva is refraining from 3 kinds of physical unwholesome acts and 4 kinds of verbal unwholesome deeds for living. So when there is a time arises to commit these unwholesome acts, if we refrain from committing those acts, then we are said to be fulfilled in the morality training, Sila Sikha. And this Sila morality is the foundation for concentration and wisdom to arise. The second training is Samadhi training, Samadhi Sikha. And this Samadhi training also consists of 3 facts, 3 dhammas, Samma Vayama, right effort, Samma Sati, right mindfulness, and Samma Samadhi, right concentration. Among these 3, Samma Vayama, right effort, making an effort in noting the objects. Having right effort, the noting mind can note, the noting mind can observe the objects occurring at that very moment. And this Samma Vayama, right effort, the Buddha explained it in 4 ways, Samappadhana, 4 kinds of Samappadhana. But we will discuss about this Samappadhana later on. For now, this effort, which is very essential in the practice in order to cultivate mindfulness and concentration, we need to exert that effort, that right effort, in observing every presently arising objects. And when we have that type of effort, Samma Vayama, then there will be Samma Sati, right mindfulness. Right mindfulness on the 4 foundations of mindfulness, the 4 foundations. Kaya, Vedana, Chitta, and Dhamma. Mindfulness on body, feelings, consciousness, and Dhamma objects. So being mindful of four objects mentioned, the body, feeling, consciousness, and the Dhamma, is Samma Sati, right mindfulness. And contemplating of any of these four objects, whichever is predominant at that time, helps to develop concentration and wisdom. So to have so this Samma Sati, right mindfulness, is very also very important to attain the Vipassanā knowledge and then path and fruition knowledge. And another Dhamma in concentration training is Samma Samadhi, right concentration. And right concentration in this Vipassanā practice is the momentary concentration. Every moment when we are able to note the objects, every moment we develop that concentration. And this momentary, Vipassanā momentary concentration is different from the concentration we gained in samatha practice. In samatha practice, tranquility meditation, we have only one object. We try to fix our mind on only one object, but it is different in Vipassanā practice. We have many kinds of objects occurring one after another. So whichever the object becomes obvious, we try to try to observe that object by applying effort and focusing. So when we put effort, the mind fixed on that object for a moment. That is samadhi, the momentary concentration, and that is the right concentration. So every time when we are able to observe the object, there arises right concentration. And these three, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, is the samadhi training, samadhi sikha. And when we applied effort, we develop mindfulness and concentration, then we come to know about the object. We come to see the object, the nature of object. That knowing is samma ditthi, wisdom. If we are noting the rising movement in the abdomen, we come to know the nature of rising movement, the nature of air element, like stiffness, tension, movement, and so on. That knowing is samma ditthi. That is right view or right knowledge. And when we note the objects, any one of the four objects, there is a Dhamma Samma Sankappa. Samma Sankappa is translated as right thought. But in noting the objects, we are not thinking about the object deliberately. We are not analyzing the object. We are not reflecting. So when in noting the objects, the right thought, Samma Sankappa, means directing the mind towards the object. Samma Sankappa is the mental factor Vitakka, which has the characteristics of bringing the mind to the object, abhiniropana. It brings mind to the object. So, though it is translated as right thought, that right thought does not mean that we are just thinking, we are analyzing that object. No deliberate thinking, but it is a kind of focusing the object, directing the mind to the object. So the noting will be accurate. So that is Samma Sankappa. And this Samma Sankappa is very helpful, very supportive in arising the knowledge. This Samma Sankappa is very helpful to Samma Ditti, right knowledge. In order to see the very true natures occurring at that very moment, Samma Sankappa is also one of the vital factor. If we do not direct our mind to the object, if we do not focus our mind to the object, we will not see the object. The mind will not reach to the object, and we will not see that object. So then there will be no insight, no knowledge. So Samma Sankappa, though it is translated as right thought, it is not just analyzing, but it is the directing the mind to the object, which helps to occur knowledge. And this Samma Ditti and Samma Sankappa, these two dhammas, are in Panya Sikha, Panya training. So here, Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, 3 trainings. And we meditators here practicing this Satipatthana meditation means we are practicing these 3 trainings, Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. In each and every noting, these 8 factors are present. These 8 factors are also called Magganga, Eightfold path. Magga. Magga is path. The factors of Eightfold Path, Magganga. There are different paths. In the teachings of the Buddha, we can find different paths. Some path leads to the lower states. Some path leads to the human world. Some path leads to the Deva world. And some path, the jhana path or the samatha path, leads to the Brahma world. But this Eightfold Path, this Satipatthana path, this Eightfold Path leads us to Nibbana. In Satipatthana Sutta, we are reciting every day. In Satipatthana Sutta, we can find the phrase Nibbanasa Satchikiriyaya. For the attainment of Nibbana, the Satipatthana path or the Eightfold Path, Noble Eightfold Path is the only way. So, in every single noting, this Eightfold Path is present. So let's see how it presents. For example, in sitting meditation, rising and falling movement of the abdomen is the primary object for us. So in noting rising and falling movement, just say the rising movement, what we need to do is every time when we note, when we observe, when we contemplate this rising movement, we need to apply effort. We need to apply effort, then only the noting mind can see that rising movement. So that effort is Samma Vayama, right effort. And there is also mindfulness, right mindfulness, Samma Sati. When we apply effort, the mind, the noting mind can note that object. There is mindfulness of that rising movement. And that mindfulness is Samma Sati. And when we apply effort and the mindfulness occurs, our noting mind is fixed on that rising movement for a moment, for just a one moment. And that fixing of the mind on the rising movement is right concentration. So 3 path factors, Samma Vayama, Samma Sati, and Samma Samadhi. And when we observe the object, there is also Samma Sankappa, focusing. The noting mind reach to that object. The directing of the mind to the object, Samma Sankappa is present. Because of Samma Sankappa, the noting mind and the object are concurrent. So we come to see the nature of rising movement. Sometimes just a movement, sometimes stiffness, tension, pressure, pushing force or pulling force, and so on. That is knowing, that is knowledge, Samma Ditti. So here, the 5 factors. Samma Vayama, Samma Sati, Samma Samadhi, and then Samma Ditti and Samma Sankappa. 5 part factors are present in one noting. And these 5 path factors are called in Pali Karaka Magganga, the working path factors. In each and every noting, these 5 path factors should be present. They are working together. These 5 factors are working together harmoniously. And when we are noting that rising movement, as we are noting rising movement, the mind is on that rising movement, and we are knowing the nature of that rising movement. At that time, we are not committing any unwholesome acts. We are not committing killing or stealing or lying and so on. So the Sila trainings, right speech, right action, and the right livelihood, the 3 factors from Sila training are there. The Sila training is automatically present. So altogether there are 8 path factors. Eightfold noble factors are present in just one noting, in just one observation. So we have to develop this eightfold path, noting the objects occurring at that very moment continuously. And when we are able to note that way, then there will not arise the unwholesome thoughts, miccha vitaka, wrongful thoughts. There will not arise any wrongful thoughts, means we are dispelling wrongful thoughts. We are preventing those wrong thoughts, miccha vitaka. That means we are cultivating the rightful thoughts, samma vitaka. Every time in Vipassanā practice, every time when we are able to observe the objects, there are the 8 noble factors, eightfold factors, path factors are present, and we are rejecting the wrongful thoughts, and we are cultivating the rightful thoughts. So a person who is practicing these 3 trainings, Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, or a person who is practicing and developing this eightfold path, is a practitioner, is called a Sekha. Sekha is a practitioner, one who practices 3 trainings. So, who is student? When Venerable Kumara Kassapa asks the Buddha said that a student is a practitioner. Sekha, practitioner who practices 3 trainings. Who practices 3 trainings. So how can this student practice 3 trainings? How he know? He know how to practice by himself, or somebody teach him the method of practice. So in the world, except the Buddha, except the enlightened Buddha, no one knows the method of this practice. We all meditators are doing this practice because we learned it from the Buddha. So here the teacher, who is the teacher? Here the teacher is the Buddha, who has practiced himself, who has understood the Dhammas himself, and then he taught that Dhamma to others. Therefore, we are able to practice. We can practice. So the Buddha, the Tathagata, is a teacher who taught this Vipassanā, wholesome deed, to the beings in the world. He taught this Dhamma to everyone out of loving kindness and great compassion. Though he taught this Dhamma to everyone, but not everyone can learn it. Not everyone can learn from him. Only the people who have a paramis can learn the Dhamma, can practice the Dhamma. So we all are very lucky to have that parami. We can come and practice this Dhamma. Buddho loke samupanno hitaya sabbaparnina. The Buddha appeared in the world for the welfare of everyone, for the welfare of all beings. All beings. So he taught the Dhamma after knowing by himself first. Buddho, Buddha. Buddha is a person who has already enlightened, who has already understood the Four Noble Truths. And he appeared in the world for the welfare of all beings. If the beings, they follow the instructions, if they follow the teachings given by the Buddha, they will be liberated from the samsara. They will be liberated from the samsara. So the teacher here is the Buddha. And the Buddha taught his student that explore this physical body. Explore this physical body, which is the collection of four great elements by dividing it into four parts. That's how the Buddha taught his student. Explore this body, this physical body. This physical body resembles the ant hill, the mound. And this physical body, the other day we discussed, we talked that this physical body is the composition of four elements: earth, water, fire, and air element. So the Buddha said to his student that explore this physical body, which is the collection of four primary elements, by dividing it into four parts. Therefore, a person who is teaching is the Buddha. The Brahmana teacher, in the Pali text, the Brahmana teacher refers to the great teacher Buddha. And the student refers to a practitioner, Sekkad, who is practicing the three trainings or who is developing the Noble Eightfold Path. And then the Brahmana asks his student, asks his most outstanding student, bring the spade and dig up this ant hill persistently. Bring an instrument and dig up the hill, the mound, persistently. So here, what is that instrument? In Pali, the word sattha is used. And the direct meaning of sattha is weapon. Bring a weapon and dig up the hill, ant hill, persistently. So here we should understand what is that weapon, what is that sattha, and what is the meaning of digging up the hill persistently. So the sattha, the commentators describe a sattha as a spade. To dig the earth, we need a tool. And the tool here is spade. With a spade, we can dig the earth very easily. We cannot dig the earth with our hands. We cannot dig with our hands. We need a tool, a spade. So the teacher asked his student to bring a spade and then dig up the hill persistently. So Venerable Kumara Kassapa, he asked Buddha, Bhante, what is that spade? What is that spade? And the Buddha replied to him that Satha or spade here is a panya, wisdom. Wisdom. We need to dig up this physical body with the help of wisdom, panya, knowledge. And panya knowledge, this wisdom, the commentators describe it as Lokiya panya and Lokutara panya, two kinds of wisdom. The mundane wisdom and the supramundane wisdom. And the mundane wisdom here is Vipassanā wisdom. Vipassana knowledge. Supramundane wisdom is path and fruition knowledge. Arya Magga, especially Arya Magga Jnana. So a spade is required to dig up the mound. So to dig up this physical body, which is the collection of four great elements, wisdom is needed. At the beginning, Vipassana wisdom, Vipassana insight knowledge is needed, and later path knowledge, Magga Jnana, is needed. So this insight, Vipassana insight panya, this Vipassana knowledge is to contemplate the four great elements. To contemplate the four great elements. We ordinary people, if we did not practice this Vipassana meditation, we ordinary people always think that this physical body is just a solid mass. It's just a one whole thing. If we did not practice meditation, we cannot see the four great elements in minute details, and we take it as just a solid thing, just like ant hill, the mound, the termite mound, because this physical body resembles that mound. So if we do not have a knowledge, then we just take it as a one whole thing. But when we do Vipassana meditation, we note every arising objects with full effort and focusing, we come to know the four elements, the four different sensations, sometimes roughness, rigidity, heat, warmth, cold, fluidity, sometimes sticky feeling, and stiffness, tightness, pressure, tension. We come to know these natures of four great elements only when we practice Vipassana, only when we develop Eightfold Path. So practicing Vipassana, noting every arising objects, is something like digging up the mound. Digging up the mound. When we dig that mound, every time when a spade strikes the mound, it breaks in pieces. It breaks in small pieces. Every time when the spade strikes that hill, a chunk of soil will be separated from that mound. So too, when in a Vipassana practice, when we observe, when we note the objects rising, falling, sitting, touching, stretching, bending, opening and closing of the eyes, blinking of the eyes, stepping, lifting, moving, placing, and so on, we come to know, we come to perceive any one of four great elements. Any one of four great elements. And we come to know that with the knowledge, because in every single noting consists the 8 factors, 8-part factors. So in every single noting, we come to know about the different elements. Even when we are contemplating the parts, the 32 parts of the body, we can see the 4 elements. For example, if we contemplate, if we reflect on the hair, the head hair, we see the earth element. If we reflect on the body hair, we see earth element. If we reflect on teeth, nails, skin, flesh, and so on, what we can see is the earth element, because the earth element is predominant on these 20 parts. When we reflect on saliva or mucus or sweat and so on, we see the water element. Water element is predominant on these 12 parts. And sometimes we feel the heat and cold. That is the fire element, and sometimes tightness, tension, movements in the body. That is the air element. So every time when we concentrate our mind inside, we come to perceive any one of the 4 great elements, and that is like digging up the mound. So if we do not practice this Vipassana meditation, we won't be able to see these different elements in the body. Then we take this physical body as a one solid mass. Then we will have a wrong perception. Oh, this is I, this is he or she, this is man or woman. There is a person, there is an entity. We will have a wrong perception. But when we look inside, applying effort, focusing on that objects, the mindfulness occurs, the mind fixed on the object, and then we come to discern the very true natures of those objects. Then there won't be a wrong perception of I or we or man or woman. So therefore, in order to see the four great elements in this physical body, we need to dig up this body with the tool of wisdom. So here, when the teacher asks his students to bring a tool or a spade to dig up the hill, the Buddha explained it that that spade or that tool means wisdom. So what is digging up persistently? In Pali, abhikkhana, dig up continuously. The teacher asks his student to dig up that mound continuously. So what is the meaning of that digging up the mound continuously? We will discuss it tomorrow. That's all for today.